The Bible Study Podcast, episode 445. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues the study of Matthew with Matthew 18. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. We're continuing on the study of Matthew with Matthew 18. You may remember Matthew 17. We had Jesus being transfigured as he goes up the mountain with Peter, James, and John, and then he comes back down to disappointment of the other disciples having trouble being able to cast out a demon, and then he predicts his own death, and then we lead to this. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a little child to him and placed the child among them, and he said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes this lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, and whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." It's an interesting segment here, and one thing that we should be aware of is that in both Matthew's Gospel and Mark's Gospel mention this thing happening right after the Mountain of Transfiguration. I don't think that's a coincidence. Let's just assume that all of the disciples are regular people with regular failings just like the rest of us. What do you think happened when three of them were invited on this special trip to go up? They see Moses and Elijah. They're sworn to secrecy not to tell anybody. And they come back down and the other disciples have just failed. Do you think any conversation happened about who might be greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Mark's Gospel says that there was a disagreement among them who was the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. This is not a rhetorical question. This is Jesus settled this for us. You know, Peter, James, and John, we're your favorites, right? We're going to be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, right? And they get a response they're not expecting. Now, Jesus takes this little child. We need to put children in perspective because we have a very different view of children these days. For one thing, we don't live in a world where children have a 50% mortality rate. When we have children, we expect them to outlive us. That wasn't the expectation then. It wasn't a world that was all about children's birthday parties and activities and toys. It was a world where you expected as often as not to outlive your children, where children didn't have any social standing, where children had only what protection you gave them. Children had no power whatsoever. And he takes this child and says, whoever takes this lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. That the kingdom of heaven is not about what you guys are about. It's about humility. It's about understanding where you fit, understanding your value, and having a humble heart about it. When we say humble doesn't mean I think I have no value. Humble means, in the Greek word that's used, is I understand my value. I understand where I fit. And I think the big thing with humility, with Christian humility as we understand it is, and because of that, I don't have a problem understanding your value either. Because I don't have to compete with you, and that's what they were doing, by the way. I don't have to say my value is greater than yours. I understand what I'm good at. I understand I'm not good at other things. I understand some people are better at me at some things, and I rejoice in that they have those skills. I can find joy in their accomplishments because it's not about me versus them. That's what humility is. And Matthew continues on into causing to stumble. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble. Such things must come, but woe to the person through whom they come. If your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life maimed or crippled than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and to be thrown into the fire of hell. Harsh saying, and also pretty gross here as we're talking about cutting off limbs and gouging out eyes. But let's look at the two main points here. One is, yeah, there will be people who will say false things and cause people to fall away from Jesus. It'll happen. But don't you be that person. Don't you be the person who drives someone away either, because you represent Jesus so poorly that they think, if that's what it means to be a Christian, I want no part of it. I try and keep away from politics in the Bible Study podcast, but we're in the middle of an election season here in the United States, and everyone is a Christian in election seasons. It doesn't matter whether they go to church regularly or not. Everybody talks about their faith, especially as they're looking for the nomination. But if we assume that all of them are Christian, and we look at their behavior and see how they're behaving, and we say that must be how Christians behave, how will people see that? Are they behaving in a way that is like Jesus? Are they behaving in a way that gives glory to God in heaven in terms of this is what Christians are like? Are they behaving with love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, long-suffering, and self-control? Because that's what we're told Christians are supposed to be like. When we or someone else behaves in a way that does not bring glory to Jesus, but teaches people that Christians are angry, shallow, self-centered people, and therefore want no part of them, then Jesus says it would be better for us to have a millstone hung about our neck and dropped in the deepest sea. That's not a good thing. He says, don't you be the one who causes people to stumble. Don't you be the one who causes someone to turn away from faith. And then he has this illustration here, and remember, it is an illustration. It is not a guideline for healthy living, that we should be going through life cutting off various limbs and gouging out various eyes. But he says, and I think the importance of this message is, this is how important this is. If it were a choice between the kingdom of heaven and your right hand, take the kingdom of heaven. If it were a choice between the kingdom of heaven and your right eye, take the kingdom of heaven. That's how seriously he takes this. Now, I believe that this is exaggeration in the sense that, can you imagine someone going into court and saying, I stole because my right hand made me do it. I'm a sinner because my right eye caused me to do it. No. But he said, even if your right hand were to cause you to stumble, even if your politics were to cause you to stumble, even if your friends were to cause you to stumble, even if your family were to cause you to stumble, even if your right hand were to cause you to stumble, it is better to do without than miss the kingdom of heaven. There is nothing more important, is what he's saying. Not even your hand, not even your eye. Is that the importance that we put on the kingdom of heaven? And how do we show being a Christian to others? If they look at you and they say, that's what a Christian is, do they see someone who is full of love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, long-suffering, and self-control? Or do they see something else? Something for us to think about. With that, we're going to end this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to host@thebiblestudypodcast.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, Pinterest, or Instagram as Chris2X. And as always, thanks so much for listening.
Looking for ways to stay positive? Brighten your day with the free Story Behind podcast. Hear weekly short stories that showcase true joy, love, and hope. Listen now at lifeaudio.com or by searching for Story Behind wherever you get your podcasts.